Hi, I'm Ed, and I'm going to demonstrate why we sometimes build buildings on springs or on rubber bearings to ensure there are no rigid connections with the rest of the world. So this is something we do if we want a very quiet room, like a concert hall, or if we've got a very noisy room with local neighbours that we don't want to annoy, like a gym perhaps. We put them on springs, we put them on rubber bearings, and so if you've ever been in a very quiet room like a concert hall or a very noisy room like a gym, the chances are you've been in a room which is not connected by anything, not supported by anything other than springs and by rubber bearings, and has no rigid connections to the rest of the world. So for this demonstration, I'm going to use one of these. This is a music box. You may have seen these in tourist gift shops, that kind of thing. You wind it up and it plays a little tune. I'm also going to use a simple enclosure. This has got a bit of sound absorbing lining on the inside, and I'm also going to use this, which is a base made out of compressible rubber. Oh, and also just a kitchen table. This could equally be a desk. It would work with a window, a wall, any big large surface. So I'll take the music box and I'll just wind it up. You can hear it's playing a little tune. Now if I put this on the table, you can hear it got much louder, and that's because the sound energy in the music box is transmitted into the table, and that turns the table into a loudspeaker. And so maybe I want to make the music box quieter. I could do this by putting the enclosure over. But you can hear that's not really made much of a difference, and that's because the sound energy is still getting transmitted into the table and turning the table into a loudspeaker. So this time I'll put it on the rubber base. And now you can hear that the enclosure is almost entirely cut out all the sound. And this is because there's no sound vibration going into the table. It's not turning the table into a loudspeaker. And this is what we do when we build buildings with no rigid connections, when we put them on springs or on rubber bearings. We're stopping the noise in the room being turned into a loudspeaker in the rest of the building. Now all it takes is one rigid connection, so one of these feet. It suddenly undermines all that. It suddenly turns the table back into a loudspeaker. And the same's true in buildings. We just need one rigid connection and it can undermine the entire scheme. That might be a bit of ventilation ductwork, a bit of pipe work, a wall tie, perhaps. And so this is why when we put a building on springs or on rubber bearings, we need to be very careful to ensure that there's not one single of these elements, these rigid connections, to the rest of the building.